It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Maxine Clark. Maxine is the founder, chair, and chief executive of Build-A-Bear Workshops, headquartered in St. Louis. She based her idea on a teddy bear that she had as a child in Coral Gables, Florida. Maxine has now built Build-A-Bear up for 10 years. She's built it into a 300-store enterprise with company stores in the U.S., Canada, and the U.K., and franchise stores in Europe, Asia, and Australia. Maxine was a finalist for the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year in 2004. The UGA Alumni Magazine did a story on Maxine in 2005, just as she was christening a new 21,500 square foot facility in Midtown Manhattan on Fifth Avenue. Last year, she published a book which she titled The Bare Necessities of Business, Building a Company with Heart. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Maxine Clark.
Thank you, Dean. I forgot to get mic'd up here, so just give me a second. I'm excited to be here today. I always like to come back to Atlanta, especially around Lenox Square, one of my favorite shopping centers in the world. And when I went to the University of Georgia, and I would come into Atlanta, some long time ago, this center, which is much different, still was pretty magical then. And I think that's really one of the exciting things about being in the retail business is the magic and the excitement of being at a shopping center, at least for me, and probably most of the women in here, and maybe some of the guys now, so that's an exciting opportunity. How many of you have been to a Build-A-Bear Workshop store? Well, that's a pretty good number. We do have 5 stores here in the Atlanta area, and many in the surrounding communities, states that surround Georgia as well, and certainly opportunity for more stores too. So we look forward to that, and we're excited to be part of the Atlanta business community and growing all the time. My entrepreneurial spirit was fueled when I was a young child. I loved to pretend, and I had a great imagination, and I still think that that's one of the most important ingredients in being a successful business person. I was always told I could be everything that I wanted to be, and that's an important difference between anything and everything. So for me, there was no limits to the possibilities. I had many great mentors. I was fortunate to have great teachers, like my first grade teacher, Mrs. Grace. How many of you can remember your first grade teacher? Yeah, that's a lot of people. Well, mine was the most beautiful, I can assure you of that. And the smartest and the best teacher. She was really, and every time I get into a discussion with people about their teacher, that's what we talk about. But it was important in those days, when you went to first grade, you did not know how to read and write. You really were just learning it in the first grade. But Mrs. Grace taught us a whole lot more than that. She taught us how to be inquisitive and creative and think about taking risks. She used to grade our papers in the old days. They did this anyway with those red Sanford pencils that no matter how hard you tried, you couldn't erase, so your mom always could see what your grades were. And she had a special technique that she used with us. Every Friday at the end of the week, she would sharpen up her pencil, and she would give it out as a reward to those of us in the class, or anyone in the class who made the most mistakes that week. And we used to have those, like a little thicker pencil when you're in the first grade, so getting the thin, sharp pencil. And we had our little cigar boxes that we used to decorate for, put in our desk, and it had our scissors and our glue and our crayons. Well, the status symbol in my first grade class was how many red pencils you had. So imagine starting out at 6 years old thinking that it was okay, to make a mistake. What a difference in your life that would be. And for me, that was really a very important moment. And I think that when I went into the retail business in 1972, I remember one of my first assignments on the floor, the selling floor, was to take markdowns. And they handed us these red pencils. They actually locked them up because they didn't want customers coming around and just writing down, crossing out a price and changing it. So these pencils, these wooden pencils with those, erasers, same erasers, were a prized possession in the retail business too. And I realized that the connection for me that I got into an industry, it was sort of like clicking for me all the way around, that allowed you to make mistakes. In fact, budgeted for you to make mistakes. So interesting. And I think also that Mrs. Grace taught me, and hopefully other classmates of mine, that it was okay to not know everything, that there was always things to learn. And so I think one of my strengths is I know what I don't know. And many people would think that was a weakness. But I really think it's a strength, and I think it's empowering. I was an ideal student, not a student with straight A's by any stretch of the imagination, and you can go to my records at the University of Georgia and prove that out. But I was a student that loved to learn, and so I was always asking questions, and a lot of teachers really, liked that and encouraged me, and it was a wonderful relationship that I was able to develop with my teachers because of that. And I've spent the last few years, actually, thinking about that and how important my teachers were in my life. And so I've been on a mad search for all of them that made a difference that are still around. This is just a couple of my teachers. One was Mrs. Adams, who was my high school journalism teacher, and she was the most wonderful teacher that you can imagine. And I was looking for her because she really got me interested in journalism. And I couldn't find her. I could not, I tried and tried and tried. And I was actually here in Atlanta for a conference about a year ago this time. And I happened to sit next to a woman who was from Miami, Florida, who was a journalist, broadcast journalist. And I was telling her the story, and she says, "Leave it to me. I'm an investigative reporter." So got to our store opening at the Falls in Miami, and she said, she called me a few days before. She said, "I'd love to tell the Build-A-Bear story on my news story. Would you mind?" I said, "Absolutely not." She came into the store and she was talking to me. She said, "I know you grew up here. What do you most remember?" And I said, "I had a great upbringing and my teachers." And she said, "Well, what if I told you that Mrs. Adams was outside?" And I said, it would be like an Oprah moment, and it was. I was so excited. So that's that picture right there. And she's a retired teacher today. And then the other picture is of Dr. Robert Carter, who was my teacher at the University of Georgia, one of my business teachers. He was a marketing professor. He was an absolutely fantastic professor, and he was the one that encouraged me to go into the retail business. He was a consultant, as a lot of college professors are, to the W.T. Grant Company at the time, and he had me work with him on a couple of projects, and he really got me interested. But really the thing that tipped me over the edge, one day we were talking about it and what we were going to do after college, and he said to me that he thought retailing was a really good industry, that women could actually compete really pretty fairly in that, and that I would probably be able to make about somewhere between $7,000 and $10,000, as a salary. And I thought that was a huge amount of money, and I thought this would be great. I had no idea really, even though he taught about retailing, what that was about. And when I did get my first, I interviewed with Rich's at the time here in Atlanta and Davison's, which were separate companies, and got jobs at both of them. But I ended up in Washington, D.C. at the Heck Company. And I was very fortunate to meet my next teacher, which was Stanley Goodman, who was the CEO of the May Company at the time. And he really brought retailing alive for me. He said that in an auditorium meeting that we had, he said, retailing is entertainment and the store is a stage. And when the customer has fun, they spend more money. That's actually everything that Dr. Carter taught us in class, but he taught it to us in a different way. When the customer has fun, they spend more money. It certainly made sense to me because when I shopped and bought new things, I had a great time. And so if I thought about it backwards, I would say, well, gee, if people are having fun creating merchandise and products, then it should be like that. So Stanley really turned, the light bulb went off for me then, and I realized that I had absolutely landed in the right career. I was intending to eventually go to law school, and I was going to go to work to earn the money to go to law school, but I never got there. And I'm glad I didn't, because it's been a wonderful career. People often ask me how I was able to take the rough idea of Build-A-Bear Workshop and turn it into what it is today. But above all, I was just allowed myself to dream. I had a great career, 20 years with the May department stores, most recently as president of Payless Shoe Source. And I still say today, you can never have too many shoes or too many teddy bears. But you can be, in this business world today, you can really, truly, if you set your mind to it, do anything and accomplish anything that you wanted to. I really went back to my inner child and decided that I wanted to get back the creativity that I was really known for and be able to put that back into business. And so I really look back to who I was as a child and what mattered to me. And quite frankly, it wasn't that different than what mattered to kids today, or certainly not 10 years ago when we started Build-A-Bear Workshop. It was really a very similar, and I was as much, and I would still say today when I talk to children, and I do it all the time, it's no different. They really like whatever it is they like. We had a replica of that, some 40 years ago or 50 years ago when I was a child. So I didn't let anybody get in the way of my idea. I just sort of didn't put any restrictions on the vision. I didn't, I went and looked at the way other people sold stuffed animals, but I didn't that wasn't really, I didn't think just because it was done that way, it had to be done that way again. I wanted to make it unique. It was something sort of with my own mark on it. I wanted to make it something that when the customer walked in, they would feel like I did when I was a little girl and I went shopping with my mother in department stores. And I'm from Miami, so a lot like Atlanta, hot. We used to get dressed up, even wear gloves. Take the bus downtown to look and not even buy anything, just to look at the windows. That was entertaining and fun. My dream, fortunately, eventually came true. I never thought of Build-A-Bear being just one store. When I set my business plan in place, it was to be a chain of as many stores as we have today. We're on that schedule, and I could see it very clearly. And you just have to start believing that you can. You have to have that visual vision, and then you have to write a business plan that helps you get there. You may not know exactly what's going to happen, but you have to at least be able to see the one end and then go all the way back and start it with a plan that's going to get you there. And it does, seem monumental. I still look back. It doesn't seem easy. It was never easy, but it was the step-by-step process that I started learning in school, and I was able to get to through real execution. And you just can't let the negative thoughts get in there. People said, did you know it was going to be successful? I think that's what the moment I knew I was an entrepreneur was when I absolutely knew it was going to be successful. I didn't even think that it wasn't going to be successful. You jump over the edge there from, you believe so strongly in what you're doing, and nobody can convince you otherwise. And I think that also I didn't think about, I'm not a negative thinking person. Almost everything that even went wrong in the business early was seen as an opportunity, and most people wouldn't have considered them wrong. So we work really hard at making sure that we look at everything as an opportunity. I was fortunate to grow up, and I did, in the early 50s and 60s, and a time when every day brought new possibilities, and I think that's something that also fueled the way I think about business and the way I thought about creating Build-A-Bear Workshop, is that the unimaginable was happening every day, and when you grow up with that, you have to think that you can continue to live in a world with all that kind of possibility. And I left corporate America in 1996 with a goal to, reinvent the retail business the way I saw it, and to give back to the industry, that had been so good to me. Quite frankly, in 1996, when I left being president of Payless Shoe Source, was a $2.5 billion, 4,500 store chain in the United States. It was a pretty successful company, and being a woman president of a large company like that was even a bigger deal still at that time. But while my financial rewards in business were quite high and my real bank account was pretty full, my psychic income bank account was at zero. And I think it takes a while to grow up to realize that it isn't all about that. It is really about a lot more than money and titles and big corporate executive positions. And I fortunately did. And I realized I was bored by shopping, and it was time for me to put my money where my mouth is. I was looking to recreate this excitement, as I told you, that I had as a child, and I wanted to create that for my customers as well. And again, what I think Build-A-Bear Workshop is really about is good old-fashioned. It's just about the customer retailing, and everything we do focuses on the customer. I wanted to do something that was different, and I wanted to be able to use my creative talents and encourage the creative talents in our customers as well. So that's been one of the challenges. People say to us, why don't you have a TV show or a movie or books about Build-A-Bear Workshop? It's because every single child, every single animal that's created at Build-A-Bear Workshop is unique and different. While we have a mascot and one character or two, we have everything is about what that individual Fluffy or Cuddles or Snowy or Sammy is all about, and so each story is different. It would be almost impossible for us to do that. It doesn't mean we aren't going to try, but really, it's capturing all that in one is different. And when we started Build-A-Bear in 1997, if you remember, the Beanie Babies were pretty popular at that time. But at a mall like in St. Louis, and it was probably the same here at a Gwinnett Mall or Perimeter Mall. There was an FAO Schwartz. There was a Disney store, there was a Store of Knowledge at that time, there was a Warner Brothers store, maybe there was a KB toy store. Today, maybe there's a Disney store in some of those malls. They've cut back dramatically, and there's really only a Build-A-Bear Workshop. So there's the two of us, out there when in 1997, much bigger company, FAO Schwartz was thought to be more successful, but quite frankly, their stores averaged about 11,000 square feet, and in the St. Louis Galleria where we started, they did 2.5 million in 11,000 square feet. In our first year, we did 1.7 million in less than 2,000 square feet. So, and we just sold teddy bears. We didn't sell expensive dolls, Madame Alexander dolls. We just sold teddy bears. So, I wanted to do something that was different and unique. And we did. We were able to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. I like to say that the light bulb went off for me with Build-A-Bear when I was out shopping with my best friend Katie, who was 10 years old at the time. This is a picture of her a few years ago in our opening of a store in Japan, but today she's 21 years old and a senior, going into her senior year at Washington University in St. Louis. And we were out shopping for Beanie Babies. We couldn't find them, and we saw a sign on a store. We stopped in to pick them up, and we went in there, and there were no Beanie Babies. And she was appalled. The sign said there was. What that must be, to a child, that's the rules. But they weren't, and she couldn't understand why they didn't take the sign down. It wasn't a big. She said, "This isn't Famous Bar, which was our department store, where the signs are high up in the ceiling. It's right there in the window." And she was mad about it. And she looked at one of the Beanie Babies that was left, kind of a little shaggy one, and she said, these are so easy, we could make these. Well, she was saying it so the lady would hear her in the store and think, well, I'm never going to come back because you lied to me. And we were going to go home to my house and do a craft project, which we used to do a lot together. But when she said that to me, the light went off. I just knew that she had something there. And because I'd been to factories that made stuffed animals. I'd been to factories that make slippers, like the stuffed slippers that kids wear, and I knew it was possible. But we talked about it a little bit. I went back home and I looked on the internet and see if there was some initial research, and I went talking to some bankers, and everybody said, this is, unless you're in the internet business, 1997, if you're not going in the internet business, I don't think we could lend you the money because that's the only business that's what everybody's interested in right now. And I didn't really need their money, but that everybody talks to you about leverage and making sure that you have that. I had saved up enough money to do it myself, but I went around, I did some research, I found out that there were a couple of companies in the United States that were making teddy bears here still, and could I buy them and convert the business, then at least have the business as a collateral for more expansion. Could not convince any of those people that I had a good business idea. They thought I was crazy. They'd say you'd have to have sewing machines and cutting tables and all those things. So when I came back home and I told Katie that nobody wanted to sell me their business, and she was, why couldn't we do it? That's exactly what she said. She said, well, why couldn't we do it? And when she said it that way to me, and you have to know our relationship, the we part got to me because she was already engaged, and I thought to myself, okay, well, this is something she's really interested in, and eventually she could run the place. It would be a fun thing for us to do something together. So I said, we absolutely could. There was no reason not to. So we decided that day, sitting in my home office, that we would do this, and we started naming the animals and coming up with all these ideas. And she said to me, about 2 weeks later, she said, why would you we can't name the animals. I remember she called me after school and she says, we can't name the animals. And I said, why not? We have to name the animals. And she said, because I wouldn't want anybody to tell me what to name my bear, George, his name was George. And I said, well, you're absolutely right. We can't do that. So we turned the idea of how to name your bear into part of the process at Build-A-Bear Workshop. And that just came from, again, a very logical way that a 10-year-old girl thinks. And after that, we went around and she and I asked a lot of her friends at school about it, and everybody thought it was, every child we asked loved it, wanted to know when it was going to happen, what could they buy. We're going to have centipedes, we're going to have parrots, a million different animals that they talked about. And again, I realized very quickly that, I didn't have to start from really an idea from scratch. I had seen other businesses. Ray Kroc didn't invent hamburgers, and Howard Schultz didn't invent coffee. They just invented how to sell more and sell it better, and we could do the same thing. So we were off and running, and Katie was the first child to be an inspiration for Build-A-Bear Workshop. She certainly wasn't the last. And while our target is a 10-year-old girl, and I think that does come from the fact that when we invented this business together, she was 10, and so we were thinking through the eyes of a 10-year-old. But little girls bring their brothers and their little sisters and their aunts and their uncles and their parents and their grandparents. And you might be surprised to know that while 70% of our customers are girls, 30% are boys, and 20% of our customers are over 14 years old. So our customer is much older than most people think. And every day I listen to what kids have to say. That's the fun of my job, and I'm very excited to come to Atlanta. We have 5 stores in the area, and after this event this morning, I'm going out to see stores and hopefully see some kids as well and get their feedback. And you don't have to run a store for children to use children to help you in your business. I think that more and more companies should do that, whether you're a hotel chain, a car dealer. You ask a kid what you should have, and they'll tell you, and I'm telling you, it would ingratiate you to their parents as well. Anything that really focuses on children can be even fun for adults. And if you need some ideas, I can certainly share them with you. They have such an open mind, the way they look at things, and I try to tell students wherever I go, high school students or college students, don't ever give up that childlike approach to solving problems and thinking about things. The why not, why can't we do it, is a wonderful way to look at any project. In short, kids just are worth listening to. And people always say to me, why didn't I think of that? Well, teddy bears weren't their passion. The other thing I try to do is encourage people to find their passion. If it's music, if it's sports, if it's books, anything. Because if you're doing what you love, you're going to be more successful at it. And actually, Dr. Carter, those are some words that he taught me. He used to really talk about this all the time, doing what you love and loving what you do, and how much you can bring that into the workplace. And I think today, even more so than when I started out in the workplace, people want to have that, and they can have it. We have many, many people on our team that I think may have started out to be sports enthusiasts and sports stars and thought they might be either a professional athlete or an agent, and now they work in our sports licensing department or distribution of sports product, or they run our sports locations in the ballparks around the country. So lots of ways you can live out your dream and do things that you never thought you would do. And maybe my passion for Build-A-Bear, or the way I connected with it, as the dean said, was I lost my teddy bear when I was a little girl, and I've been kind of looking for it ever since, in a way. But now that we've sold over 50 million stuffed animals in the last 10 years, I think that I can safely say I found it. I may not be living with those 50 million stuffed animals. Fortunately, I wouldn't have room for them, but through the eyes of our guests, I've been able to experience finding my teddy bear again. And that idea that I lost my teddy bear is the way Katie and I put together the idea of naming your bear. Each bear comes with a unique barcode, and a hard piece of that barcode goes inside the bear, and the other piece of it's used to enter your name and address in our database and our Find a Bear ID system. And then if the bear's ever lost and it's returned to us, we just scan it and find you in our system. And if we can, we usually do find you, but we've found over the last 10 years about, I think it's closing in on 4,000 animals. We hope no one will ever lose their stuffed animal, but we can find them, and we're always glad that we do, because that connection that a child has with their stuffed animal is really important. I like to say that we're a theme park in a mall. We're not as people like to call us specialty retail, but we're really a theme park in a mall. We sell the brand experience. That means we sell not only the product, but the experience of making your own stuffed animal, which is important as the product. And each experience that our guests have is unique and different, and has a lot to do with the animal that they're making and the people that they connect with in our store. And we sell our products in a unique, highly interactive store environment that's larger than life and brightly colored, an environment that encourages people to stay and engage with our products and with our associates. I know that we all, any of us that are in business in the room, and those of you thinking of going into business or your own business or working for someone else, our objective is to connect with our clients, our associates, our customers. I call it the Cheers philosophy, where everyone knows your name. And those of you who remember that, it was kind of a crazy relationship that Ted Danson had with his customers, but it was special, and they all came back. And I think that is what it's all about, really, connecting and making sure that the customer feels like you do know their name. And there's lots of ways to do that without doing that, although fortunately for us, a lot of our customers come back frequently, and our associates do get to know them. We have a unique store and a brand. It's fun, it's different, it's exciting, and I think that the fun kind of went out of the retail business over the last 25 years, and we started talking ourselves into thinking that it was all about the price, and every retailer thought they should compete with Walmart. And we started blaming it on the stock market, on real estate consolidation, on our landlords, a lot of different things. But really, the fault was with all of us in the retail business. We took ourselves far too seriously, and again, didn't realize what the customer was really looking for was an experience. I think Build-A-Bear 10 years ago started to bring that out again, and now lots of people are talking about it, about the experience. Service has become part of the conversation about experience. And we strive every day to reinvent our company. And this is something also I would encourage everybody to do, that you can do this. We're our own competitor. We don't have any real direct competition, which makes it harder. So everything that families do together, going bowling, going to a soccer game, going to a baseball game, going to a movie, is what we compete with for their attention. And so we have to make sure that we're giving them something that's well worth it. We also get a lot of feedback from our associates and our customers, and I don't think anybody really says it any better than our guests. So I just brought a few letters, to read to you. I recently had an excellent experience with Holly in your Colorado Springs Build-A-Bear workshop. I was looking for a gift for someone I really cared about, and Holly was a tremendous help. It was a particularly busy time for the store, and I was in a crunch, but Holly took the time out to help me. The service I experienced was above anything I'd expected, and my loved one enjoyed the gift tremendously. Please convey my thanks to her for all of her help. Respectfully, Raymond Smith, a second lieutenant, United States Air Force. Hello, I was in your Alderwood Mall store in Washington, Build-A-Bear workshop yesterday, and had some wonderful help. Renee helped me get the bears that I wanted, as well as helping me get out of there in a timely manner, as I was running late for the party. I'm a last-minute shopper. I can't tell you how much I appreciated it. She was so sweet. I also want to thank you to Sarah for helping me find the clothes and for her lovely smile. She was a sweetheart. Thanks for having such great employees. The ones from the kids are really the best. They always are the ones helping me with real estate. Hello, my name is Sydney Marie Clifton. I just turned 6 on June 18th. I love Build-A-Bear Workshop. I have 3 animals I've made at the workshop at Navy Pier, but I wanted to ask you if you would please make a Build-A-Bear Workshop closer to my house. I was thinking you could build it in Bloomington because that's a nice big town with lots of kids, and they have a children's museum, so that already makes the kids want to go to Bloomington. The best news is it's close to my house. This is the best part. Also, could you please build it today because there's a new bear out and I want to get it. I just saw it on TV and I just have to have it today. Please call me if you need any help building it because I know exactly what the workshop should have. Love, Sydney. One of the greatest compliments I hear about Build-A-Bear Workshop is no matter what store you go into, the people are so friendly. And actually today we have some of the members of our team here in Atlanta that are grown up with us and here in Atlanta. Almost all of you have been here since almost the beginning, or at least the beginning of the store that you started in. And we would not be anything without these people. And fortunately for us, we have it replicated all across the country. And also one of our team members, Ken Garth from St. Louis, happened to be here. He's on our IT team and has worked with us for 7 years. And he's here for training in Atlanta. So we're all a pretty close-knit organization. He was talking to Laura yesterday and found out I was going to be here, and here he is. So great, lucky for us. But people ask me all the time, how do we hire and train such great people? Where do we find them? Well, every single one of them usually worked somewhere else in somebody else's store. But we really we have one single rule that we just follow all the time, and we hire people who care. That's the number one thing we look for is people who care, who have a sense of pride in what they do, really like working with people, and care about making our company a successful enterprise. And we have a lot of training stuff, much more sophisticated today than we had when we started. But really, we have a simple philosophy. We just say yes. There's nothing that any one customer could do that would ever put us out of business, and more than one customer wouldn't do it either. And people just don't do that. They really want to do business with you. That's why they come in the door. And so anything that you can do to make it possible for them to buy from you should be something that's pretty simple. But you'd be surprised how that sometimes goes awry. And I'm sure that you all have stories that have happened to you where you are that people just absolutely don't want to take your money. They just want to tell you to leave. And you'll be going into a store at 10 minutes to 9. The mall closes at 9 and the gate's already coming down. And they're just like saying, don't shop here, please don't shop here. And we don't do that. Our associates are to the last minute, counting out the dollars, staying open as long as they can. You just can't disappoint somebody. Maybe it's because we're in the business of making people smile that wants a smile. So we just say yes. It's a pretty easy philosophy. We keep our associates also involved in our company in as many ways as we can. All of our systems are pretty much state-of-the-art. And when a store manager turns on their computer every day in their store, World BearNet comes online and tells them exactly what is going on that day in their store, and that's true for a store that's in St. Louis, Missouri, or a store that's in the United Kingdom, anywhere in our network of stores, and actually our foreign stores also take part in the system. So it really keeps us all connected in a way that's pretty special, and we're supposed to all communicate through that method, but I can't help it. I write a lot of emails to the stores and try to stay in touch and find out exactly what's going on, even if it's, very late into the night. We're communicating with each other and trying to make sure we know what's going on. And we also try to celebrate as much as we possibly can our successes and good things that happen to our teams. And that's really important. Something where we are a family and we all spend more time with each other than we probably spend with our families. So we try to make sure that we're enjoying it as well. And while all of these things are important, we still sell a product, and I think that's really a major part of our success because, let's face it, cute sells, and people, have that awe factor. They go up and they say, oh, that's so cute, look at that outfit, I have to have it for myself, why don't you make it for adults or children? And we try to copy fashion pretty much. We do make every single product ourselves. It's all exclusive to Build-A-Bear Workshop. And we are better able to control our destiny that way. In fact, maybe if there were people that made bear clothes when we started Build-A-Bear, we would have bought them from them, but nobody did. We had to create our own industry. So we've introduced many firsts, and we spell first F-U-R-S-T. I did have a college education, as you know, but I have we play on those words a lot, and people are, we have a sort of a bear speak in our company, so we're always looking for things that can play on that. And we really try to make sure that our fashions and the accessories connect for the kids, because they want to dress alike. So you can see that some of these fashions are absolutely what's going on in the world of real fashion. We also want to make sure that our business makes a difference. When I wrote my business plan for Build-A-Bear, it was about how I could give back to the communities. And so we create products in our assortment that when customers buy them, a portion of the sale goes to help causes such as World Wildlife, literacy, children's health and wellness, and those are very important to us. These are very successful programs, and we think it's important for kids to realize that businesses do support those things, and kids care way more about that than I did when I was a child. I didn't even know about these things. They're very much aware, and I think that's another reason that these products are some of our most successful. Our objective has always been to build a world-class brand for children of all ages. We say our guest is 3 to 103, and we use a combination of lots of different marketing tools to do this. We've grown in that and changing even as we speak, as the internet becomes a more important way to communicate. But at the heart of our marketing program is our television advertising, which has allowed us to use at different stages, use real guests to tell the story. And I brought a few commercials just so I could show you and see, you could get a feeling for what we try to tell our customers.
At Build-A-Bear Workshop, the world is anything you can imagine. Dream it, create it. Build-A-Bear Workshop, where best friends are made. At Build-A-Bear Workshop, the world is anything you can imagine. Dream it, create it. Build-A-Bear Workshop, where best friends are made.
Today we have over 275 company-owned stores in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom, and franchise stores, as you heard, around the world. And although we have virtually no direct competition, as I said, we keep inventing new products all the time to compete with ourselves. Now, 50% of our customers come in every day are new, and they've never seen the old products. But our best guests, people that come back a lot, are they might have been there last week, and so they always are looking, for new things. So we have to keep newness coming, and that's something that was not I didn't realize how tied to fashion we would be. So we keep doing that, and that's something that is very important. So you can see there are samples of merchandise from our zoo store that we have in the side of zoos, the ballparks, and our new our doll concept, Friends to be Made. These are an example of a couple of other endeavors that we're involved in, which is our Friends to be Made store. You can see the front of it, and you can also see our Build a Dino, which started with our relationship with Landry's Restaurants, who created a T-Rex cafe that is in Kansas City, and came to us and asked us if we could develop a line for them. We created the brand Build a Dino and dinosaurs, and now we actually operate our own store with that, and we have dinosaurs in our own Build-A-Bear store that were successful in the concept. So our Major League ballpark stores are in St. Louis, San Francisco, 2 great locations for baseball, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and Cleveland, and more on the way. And all of these concepts allow us to leverage our experience and core competencies and broaden our brand in interactive retail. And this year we opened a new concept called Ride Makers. Maybe if you've been to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, you've seen this new concept. It's totally different, not about plush at all, but about the creation of your own model car inside a Build-A-Bear workshop. And if you think about it, two very classic toy experiences for children, stuffed animals and dolls, and for boys, model cars and model airplanes. And voila, you have a company called Ride Makers. And we are very excited about this concept. We have 2 stores, one that we opened at Myrtle Beach and one that we opened at Mall of America. We'll have 2 more this year and hopefully a lot more next year, planning about 8 to 10 new stores. So if you're in Myrtle Beach, please come and see it. A really fun experience, built similarly, but nothing about it looks the same at Build-A-Bear. But I was standing there on opening day and customers were walking by and saying, wow, it's Build-A-Bear for boys, finally, you know. So, but as I told you, a lot of boys and young boys and older boys shop in our store. One of the great things about Build-A-Bear, when we first opened, we couldn't attract boys at all to work in our store, and we didn't really try that hard because people thought it was stuffed animals are for girls. But then when the teenage boys saw all the girls that work in our store, we started getting a lot of applicants, and so we're much more balanced now. And actually, high school students are a big part of our business. Every summer or springtime when it gets to be prom time, one of the ways, that very popular way for a boy or girl to ask their boyfriend or girlfriend to the prom is to come into our store, record that ask inside of one of our recorder sounds, and then put it inside a bear. And so then if she turns you down, or they're turning down the bear, they're not turning down. Who is going to turn down a teddy bear? I mean, really. And then Valentine's Day, which is our biggest holiday really of the year, is very popular for people to come in and make a bear that says, will you marry me? And so we have a lot of fun with that. Our story is a simple one. We're a company with heart. When a guest makes a stuffed animal in our store, they select a special heart during a ceremony. They make a wish that stays with that bear forever. They warm it in their hand and they kiss it. And when it goes inside the bear, it's a pretty emotional moment for most everyone. No 2 bears are ever alike. No 2 wishes are ever the same. And that's the same way we look at our guests. Each one is unique. Each one is different. Each one is valued. And our guests are passionate about the way they connect with our brand, as you can tell from some of those letters. They feel ownership. It's their Build-A-Bear workshop, and they want one in their neighborhood if they don't have one. And we're very proud of that, but that's also a huge responsibility. We make sure that our guests continue to inspire us because they are the heart of our business. They challenge us. They make us a better company every single day. We are a customer-centric business with a high focus on what the customer wants, and that's what makes us the company that we are today: innovative, curious, successful, and fortunately always growing. Our guests have come to expect a personal and fun experience every time they come into our store. We are very proud of that. We wouldn't settle for anything less, and we wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, I can't even imagine running a business in the 21st century that wasn't Build-A-Bear Workshop, or wasn't at least founded on similar principles of serving the customer. So a couple of years ago, we were approaching our 10th anniversary, which is this year, and I was thinking about all the things we'd accomplished. And we have one of the unique things about Build-A-Bear is people who come to work for us today say to us, how are we going to keep it like this? And people who came to work for us 7 or 8 years ago said the same thing. So that's a good thing. And so I wanted to make sure that we memorialized it. I also have so many people asking me, could you help me with this? I have an idea. Do you think it could come to the marketplace? And I'm a pretty available person, but I just couldn't handle, all these requests. So I thought, well, maybe I should, write this down. So I decided to, author a book, and I found a great person to help me write it. And actually, I just spoke the story to her. I just told her everything I could about Build-A-Bear, and we came out with our book, which is The Bare Necessities of Business: Building a Company with Heart. And I do believe, I know it for a fact today, I believed it in 1997, that you can build a company that is successful, that cares about its associates and its customers, and has fun, and make a lot of money doing it. So we're here to prove that that's a fact of life today, and anybody who tells you otherwise just isn't using their imagination. So I hope that the book will encourage other people, but I know that in our company, we know this is the way it's supposed to be. So I'm really happy to have been here and told you the Build-A-Bear story, and hopefully that those of you who haven't been yet, will now be curious, if nothing else. And I don't know if we have time for a few questions, or anybody.
Yeah. And thanks for agreeing to take some questions. As you are asking questions, remember Ben Daniel up here talking about podcasts. We're recording this to put on our website and on podcasts, so please wait for someone to give you the microphone. We've got people who can get a microphone to you so we can record your question as well.
Yes, Ben.
I got to mention this in my presentation, but on your tables there are cards. colorful 3x5 cards that are these that have the web address for the podcast. So that's where you can find this lecture and other Terry Third Thursday lectures and other great content that we have up there right now.
So I'll be able to go and see myself, is what you're saying?
You'll be able to hear yourself.
Oh, hear myself.
At
Good,
least hear
good.
yourself.
I prefer that. I prefer that. Yes.
There is a popular brand out there by Gans, Webkins. Have you seen any slowdown in your sales, or have you had people asking about making your animals web ready?
Yes. Yes, I would say that we have definitely had an impact, from Webkins. I think everybody has, whether you're Barbie or because kids go to what's new and hot. And actually, the interesting thing about it is when we started Build-A-Bear, that's what you could do. In the very beginning, you could, your code of your bear, you could go online and you could see your bear, but nobody was interested. And so we just really didn't invest any more money in it because kids weren't there yet. And so we really focused our business on, our retail stores, and we have an incredible website. Actually, until maybe February, our hits to our website were much greater than people, even though they were going to the web for Webkins. That now they get more than we do. But we were working on it. We have our own interactive website, and last year we invested quite a bit of time and money to bring it up to what we thought was then the 21st century. But all of a sudden, Webkins kind of clicked. But before that was Neopets and Club Penguin, but neither of those people had an item in the marketplace that you could buy. So what they did at Gans, we're a customer of Gans, by the way, they took the best of Beanie Babies and the best of Build-A-Bear Workshop and sort of put it together and allowed kids to go and buy these animals. But it's a fad. It's clearly a fad. I mean, you don't go from zero to what they've gone to in 6 months and be a lifelong trend. Fortunately for us, we've been growing. But we do have, we will be launching our virtual world, that's what they're all called, the end of this year. And the difference for us is that we have 50 million animals that are already made that you can connect with online, and also we have stores where you can go to. We can control our own distribution. So we've been in test mode with our guests. They've been helping us do this, and kids all over the country have commented and given us ideas for games and all kinds of things. So when you see it, it'll be like it should be, that it's been sort of by kids for kids, and it has got all the things that maybe some of these other websites have and more, and your own animal, is available online. So, Fluffy and Cuddles and Zoe and Samantha can all play online with you. So we're very excited about that, and it's, when you buy an animal, it just comes with that transaction, and there's no additional added computer equipment that you need, like for the new Bratz dolls or the Barbie, that $60 for the Barbie and $30 for the Bratz thing that connects you. It's kind of a gift with purchase, and I think it's going to be great. And the key of this is going to be really evolutionary. This is in the virtual world, anybody can come online and anybody can have games. In the retail world of stores, it's much more difficult to have competition. So all of us, whether we're on the web, any gaming site that doesn't have retail stores but has a new hot games, the kids in a minute spread it across the world and they are using it. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that we're excited about it because we've been actually doing it, but we've been doing it behind the scenes. So you all can't see it, but our test kids are working with it and having a good time with it. So we're very optimistic. Yes?
I have a question about that 10 to 14-year-old girl developmentally. You have the Limited, and you have all these other stores that are grabbing their attention from a retail perspective, and that's a confusing time for girls that sort of preteen. How do you keep them engaged at that time in their lives when some girls go underground and they're not as girly, yes, or they're not as confident?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And it was one of our objectives, was to really be able to create a business where all children, but the girls are more part of our concept, is that through their stuffed animal, we want them to stay kids as long as we can keep them that way. And through their stuffed animal, they can sort of take it on the stages of their life. So, our cheerleading outfit is incredibly popular. We have college T-shirts. We have all these professional sports, and you can sort of see how kids do it. And I think it's a way that kids can still be kids, but it's still cool. It's it's fun to go to Build. You might not necessarily have your birthday party anymore at Build-A-Bear Workshop when you're 14, although we do have Sweet 16s, and then you get older and you want to come and have your adult birthday party at our store. But but it's still okay to come in with your friends and comment about the fashions and make your bear into Hannah Montana bear, or it was Lizzie McGuire for a while, whatever it is. And I think that allowing the kids to be okay. And one of the great things that we didn't necessarily expect either is when you come in our store, there's really no gender, there's no age, there's little kids in strollers and there's teenage girls in line together, and they don't see this as a negative. Also because we employ, I think, a lot of teenage girls. And one of the reasons that we did it was when I was 16, I couldn't get a job because you had to be 18. And then when you got to be 18, they told you didn't have any experience, so you couldn't work there. I said, forget it. We're gonna hire high school kids. We want to be their first employer. We want to show them what work should be. And so they love interacting with these younger kids, and the kids love interacting with them. So there is a psychology behind doing that, and they look up to the people that work in our store. So I think that we really just make it okay, to be a kid again, still be a little girl when you want to be, or not such a little girl, but relate to your life. And then also you can go out, leave us, and go shop at Hollister if you want to. That's okay. Yes.
Has there been anything throughout this process that didn't work the first time that you tried and decided you need to rework it, find a different way for it to be successful?
It wasn't so much that things didn't work, but maybe some of you might remember. By the time we opened up here in Atlanta, we weren't doing. I think did we open in Olive, Georgia? Were we sewing bears then? Oh, okay, gosh. Okay, we used to sew every single bear by hand in the back, and needless to say, that was a very tedious process and highly labor intensive. So we had to figure it out, and we went and invented this system where you can just pull the strings. But I knew, I wasn't sure what store number we changed at, so we opened up all the way to store 10, which was here in Atlanta, the first store in Atlanta, and we were still sewing bears. So it wasn't a mistake. It was the only way we knew how to do it at the time. We didn't know how much business we were going to do, so we had to evolve and change it and come up with something faster. Mistake. We've made a few, maybe location mistakes. Maybe we weren't in the right location in a mall or the right store in a city. Not very many. We've only closed 2 stores. Not too many. It's hard to remember them now because we just sort of turn it around and make it into an opportunity. Can you think of anything? Ken? I think we've been pretty fortunate too, because we're so in touch with our customers and our associates that we maybe just make it a little bit and then they correct us instantly and say don't do that, and so we change. Yes.
Hi, I think you have an awesome story.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you. I had a question about, have you thought about distribution to answer the little girl's letter about having a store closer to home in terms of selling the clothes in a retailer that matches the environment that you would like for your customers?
Yes, we think about those things, but we have to be, we're just really control freaks, and we want to make sure we can control the experience because it's so much associated with our brand. If anything happens to the way the customer perceives Build-A-Bear Workshop, then a store in another town would be affected by that. It's just the way it works with kids. Just this way the Webkins thing seems to have come out of nowhere. We've built our brand over 10 years, and we don't want to do anything that would hurt it. So you can't really control that, especially in a department store. They might put it in the back. They also tend to think of us as a children's brand, well, which we are, but we're not only. And so that cool factor of having these older girls that want to shop at Build-A-Bear, if we were in the children's department of somebody else's store, we would not be able to do that. But we do have, it's not to say that Bloomington, and I think she was from Illinois, would be a place that we would have a store. We might have a store there. We believe that there's about a 400 store potential for Build-A-Bear in the United States. It doesn't mean there's 12,000 malls that have places for a store, but it doesn't mean the demographics or the population is large enough to grow there. We get a lot of requests from Athens, Georgia, and I'm not saying we'll never go there, but I think that it's growing. College towns all around America are changing. Demographics are changing pretty dramatically. So we're in Gainesville, we're in Tallahassee. I'm not sure people would say Tallahassee was a state capital versus a college town. We're looking at a lot of those. We're at Colorado Springs that have surprised us, and yet the demographics wouldn't 10 years ago have told you to go there. So we're real selective about the locations, and we do want to fill in, but we want to make it special. We want you to want to come to Build-A-Bear for that special memory is going to be for her, forever of going to Build-A-Bear. We're not trying to make it hard for her, but we want to make sure that we just don't oversaturate the marketplace as well. Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much.